It looked like a completely normal cab run. Two brothers, an evening drive, Derby registration plates humming along the motorway. There were no sirens screaming behind them. No flashing blue lights reflecting in the rearview mirror. And certainly no erratic speeding. To anyone watching from the passing lane, it was just a mundane taxi service ferrying a passenger through the Midlands. But the silence in the front seats was heavy, and the cargo in the boot was not luggage for a holiday. It was part of a shadow economy, a hidden artery pumping through the heart of Britain. That car was not driving a route. It was executing a protocol within a system that ran through council estates, unassuming lockups, and dimly lit car parks. It was a system that fed kilos of high-purity cocaine from the skyscrapers of Dubai directly to the grey streets of UK cities. This was not the chaotic drug trade of the movies. There were no turf wars, no drill rap videos flaunting cash, and no sloppy street corners. Instead, there were token codes, military-grade encrypted phones, and routines so clinically clean they looked like legitimate logistics. For 408 days, it worked perfectly. It was a ghost machine, generating millions in silence, until one single message typed in absolute trust and sent in a split second became the hairline fracture that shattered the entire structure. This is the story of how a group of men built a £165 million drug empire behind the facade of taxi jobs, and how the very technology they trusted to keep them invisible ended up exposing every secret they had. At the top of this invisible pyramid sat Pardeep Manhanger. If you passed him on the street, you would not look twice. He did not look like a kingpin. There was no gold Rolex weighing down his wrist, no flashy foreign holidays splashed across Instagram, and no visible source of income that would raise an eyebrow. He lived in a small, unremarkable terrace house in Willow Close, Darley Abbey. It was the kind of suburban street where neighbors nod to each other and silence reigns after dark. But inside that house, behind a plain white door that looked like any other, Manhanger was orchestrating one of the most lucrative drug operations in British criminal history. Manhanger, at 45 years old, had mastered the art of camouflage. He did not chase attention or fame, he chased volume. He was not interested in shifting ounces on street corners. He was in the business of importing bricks. He dealt in high-purity cocaine shipped straight from the Middle East, ordering kilos with the casual ease of a warehouse manager ordering office supplies. He understood that violence brings heat, but efficiency brings profit. This was not a one-man hustle. It was a corporate structure built beneath the surface of society. He employed couriers, counters, and buyers, all operating based on strict roles rather than street reputation. He was less of a gangster and more of a supply chain manager, coordinating orders and tracking financial movements through encrypted devices, entirely off the grid. From his quiet Derby home, over £165 million worth of cocaine flowed through his network in just over a year. It was an enterprise, not a crew. And Manhanger sat at the top, a phantom CEO, unnoticed until the foundation began to rot. Once the high-purity product touched UK soil, the problem shifted from importation to distribution. Someone had to move these immense volumes. Not in small street-level baggies, but in wholesale bulk. That responsibility fell to Jaswant Kajla, the gang's logistics director. At 41 years old and based in Coventry, Kajla was the antithesis of the stereotypical enforcer. He did not rely on intimidation or weapons to keep control. He relied on routes, strict routines, and absolute discipline. He did not just arrange deliveries. He architected an entire system designed to be invisible to the naked eye. He treated the movement of Class A drugs with the same rigor as a legitimate freight company, orchestrating pickups in Luton, drop-offs in Derby, and cash returns through unremarkable side streets, petrol stations, and quiet car parks. Everything was timed, rehearsed, and synchronized. Under Kajla's watch, the operation functioned like a logistics firm that never closed and never stalled. Distances were calculated to the mile, and couriers followed scripts to ensure no risky shortcuts were taken. Drugs were moved across cities in taxis, rentals, and family cars without drawing a flicker of heat, often handed off to buyers who barely knew the identity of the man pulling the strings. If a handoff encountered a glitch, Kajla did not panic. He simply rerouted the driver, reassigned the drop, and kept the flow moving. The police later estimated that the network was generating £400,000 per day, yet not a single kilo was ever left sitting too long. Kujla saw to that. His couriers were not gangsters, they were assets, trained to deliver and disappear. While Kujla ensured the physical product moved seamlessly, Munraj Johal ensured the money made it back to the top. Based in Luton, the 32-year-old was the operations chief financial officer. Quiet by design, Johal never touched the cocaine itself. His job was to follow every pound it generated. He ran the books with the precision of a forensic accountant, maintaining detailed spreadsheets that logged every sale, every expense, and every outstanding debt. In a display of dangerous confidence, he did not use codes, he used plain figures. He was not hiding what they earned. He was managing it. When bundles of cash returned from buyers, they were tagged with token numbers, unique identifiers, linking each specific stack of cash to a specific deal. If money went missing, they knew exactly who owed it. Johal's encrypted handset was the nerve center connecting the UK operation directly to the suppliers in Dubai. He reported exact totals and profit margins, building trust through consistency. He was assisted by his cousin, Nimrat Bajia, who helped physically count and move the mountains of currency. When officers eventually raided a flat in London, they found Bajia mid-task, surrounded by £530,000 stacked and sorted. At just 26, he was handling more cash than most legitimate businesses see in a decade. But to do this at scale, they needed infrastructure. They did not call them stash houses, they called them offices. Located in Derby and Luton, these addresses were hidden in plain sight, functioning not as residential homes, but as control centres. In Derby, Manveer Singh, known as Manvak, ran the show. He kept the machinery oiled, overseeing the 24-hour processing lines where cocaine came in and money went out. Flats were converted into high-volume banking rooms where teams bundled cash and prepped loads. Police estimated that at any given moment, between £1 million and £2 million could be sitting in a single unit, waiting for redistribution. These were controlled environments, where names were not spoken. Only numbers, product weights, token codes and delivery times. For 408 days the operation ran without missing a beat, a perfect engine of crime. Until the breach finally came. While the officers kept the internal machinery running with ruthless efficiency, a different set of players ensured the demand remained insatiable on the outside. This was not a street corner hustle dealing in £10 bags. The gang operated strictly in kilos, and their customers were wholesale buyers with the capital to match. Among the most prolific was Michael Kareem, based in Nottingham. Unlike the Phantom, like Manhanger, Kareem did not believe in staying quiet. He was not just buying for himself. He was feeding a vast regional network, purchasing at least 9 kilograms over the course of the conspiracy. But it was his lifestyle that screamed for attention. The money did not go under a mattress. It was spent loud. Kareem lived the life of a lottery winner, renting 46 high-end vehicles including BMWs, Mercedes and Range Rovers. He dropped £91,000 on 2 luxury apartments, flew to Las Vegas, and followed football matches across Europe. His wardrobe was a catalogue of Harvey Nichols and Flannel's designer gear. Investigators later calculated he had benefited by over £1 million, living a high-speed fantasy funded by the steady stream of bricks flowing from Derby. Other buyers, like Joseph Davidson and Kelly Williamson, kept lower profiles but moved similar weight, ensuring the supply chain extended deep into the Midlands. They did not know the full architecture of the supply line, only that it worked, on time, every time. To bridge the gap between these high-rolling buyers and the central stockpile, the gang relied on movement that was fast, quiet, and legally camouflaged. This is where the Iqbal brothers, Basharat and Banaras, became essential. They were not typical runners in hoodies, they were legitimate. As licensed taxi drivers in Derby, they were the kind of men you would flag down for a ride home without a second thought. But behind the meter, they were couriers for a national crime syndicate. Basharat, the older brother, moved both drugs and cash, using his taxi as the perfect cover. Who suspects a cab driver of carrying kilos of cocaine or bundles of dirty money? It was the perfect disguise hidden in plain sight on the public roads. However, while the physical movement was camouflaged by taxis, the digital movement was being conducted on what the gang believed was a private, impenetrable channel, EncroChat. They trusted this encrypted communication network implicitly. They believed it was untouchable, a digital bunker where no police warrant could reach. Because of this false sense of security, they spoke freely. They did not hide behind complex riddles. They shared addresses, drop points, and financial totals openly. They even shared personal photos, a fatal mistake born of arrogance. One message displayed the interior of a house where police would later match the curtains to a property in Derby. Another photo casually included a dog in the corner of the frame, the same dog officers would find during a raid. They tracked profits down to the penny, in spreadsheets sent directly through the phones they thought were secure, but they did not know that the walls of their digital fortress had already been breached. European law enforcement had cracked EncroChat and was quietly feeding the intelligence to UK investigators. Every message sent, every order placed, and every boast made was being copied and logged in real time. For weeks, the gang operated as if nothing had changed, believing in their own invincibility. But in reality, the police were no longer just investigating. They were practically in the group chat, watching the empire map itself out one text at a time. By the time the gang realized the silence had been broken, the trap had already snapped shut. In April 2020, the invisible net finally tightened. Surveillance teams watched in silence as a courier left a residential address in Derby, a nondescript holdall gripped firmly in his hand. He walked calmly to his car, oblivious to the eyes tracking his every step. There was no rush, no nervous glance over the shoulder, just a short, planned drive across town. Inside that bag sat 7 kilograms of high-purity cocaine, packed and ready for distribution. But he never reached his destination. Officers intercepted him on a quiet side road outside the city. It was a controlled stop. No high-speed chase. No screaming confrontation. Just the cold reality of handcuffs clicking into place. The packaging of the seized drugs matched exactly what had been seen in the EncroChat photos. The weight confirmed the digital orders. The timing aligned perfectly with a message intercepted just hours prior. This arrest was not just a drug bust. It was the physical confirmation of the digital ghost story police had been reading for months. From that moment, the operation accelerated into a synchronized dismantling of the entire network. Search warrants were signed, and entry teams were briefed. In London, officers raided a flat and walked into a scene frozen in time, £530,000 in cash, bundled and tagged, sitting on the floor mid-count. Elsewhere, homes were hit with quiet precision, yielding kilograms of cocaine and stacks of cash in 40,000 bundles. It was not chaos. It was closure, executed address by address, from Derby to Luton, Coventry to Nottingham. The structure collapsed, not with noise, but with undeniable evidence. By January 2022, the silence of the conspiracy was replaced by the gravity of Derby Crown Court. Prosecutors laid out the full weight of the case, describing it as an industrial operation unlike anything seen in the region before. The court heard that in just 6 weeks, the gang had moved over £18.6 million, averaging £400,000 a day. The evidence did not come from informants. It came from the gang's own devices. They had documented their own downfall. Judge Jonathan Bennett declared this was no chaotic street crew, but a structured criminal enterprise, and the sentences handed down reflected that severity. Pardeep Manhanger, the phantom CEO who thought he could stay invisible, received the longest sentence, 18 years and 3 months. Jaswant Kajla, the logistics mastermind, was jailed for 15 years and 3 months. Manraj Johal, the accountant who tracked every penny in plain figures, was handed 15 years and 8 months. The dismantling continued down the ranks. Manveer Singh got 13 years for running the Derby office. Michael Karim, the flash buyer with the luxury lifestyle, got 10 years. From the couriers like the Iqbal brothers to the cash counters, no one was spared. In total, 18 people were convicted, sentenced to a combined 167 years in prison. The £165 million empire, built on silence and technology, had been completely erased. It was a stark reminder that in the modern age of crime, the very tools used to build a hidden empire can become the weapons that destroy it.